They don't live in a house. They live in a sunken hut, half buried in the ground, with a roof made of stitched hides and a scent of scorched wax, sour roots, and old fire smoke pressing down like a second skin. 4 of them. The last girls left in the tribe. No one knows exactly what happened to the ones who came before, just that no baby girls have been born in years. And now, these 4 are called the final gates of life. Their real names are gone, stripped, erased. They're renamed after the tribal mating cycle: dawn, dusk, night, and seedling. The last name belongs to the youngest, a girl barely 13, with knees still scraped from tree climbing, who no longer climbs. The men don't enter their hut. They wait outside. It's not about privacy, it's about control. Everything is scheduled: visits, rituals, tests, evaluations. Each girl is inspected weekly by the elder women for viability, weight, mood, skin color, and monthly cycles. Anything unusual is reported. Anything lacking is punished. You don't want to be the one labeled uncooperative. Each evening, the fire pit roars near the center of the village, and the women are led out one by one, not to join the feast, but to stand silently while the tribal council decides who will receive blessings that week. These blessings are not symbolic. They are names written on bark, the names of men, paired with theirs. Dawn was once chosen by 5 men in 1 month. She didn't speak for days afterward. Her voice returned only when Seedling collapsed beside her during a heat wave, and she screamed loud enough to wake the whole compound. There are no locked doors, just guards. Guards with carved bone clubs and the right to test purity if they suspect defiance. Even that phrase, test purity, is spoken with a kind of dark pride, like it's tradition, like it's noble. No one tells the girls why they were kept. The men talk about destiny. The women talk about survival. But the truth is simpler. They are the only wombs left. Each girl sleeps on her own mound of dry leaves and furs, never knowing when someone will come in the night. Sometimes it's for a ritual. Sometimes it's for reassurance. Sometimes it's just because a warrior dreamed of her. That's considered a sign. And in this tribe, signs are obeyed without question. They're fed better than the rest. More protein, sweeter roots, medicinal broth, not out of kindness, out of investment. Their bodies are assets, their compliance, currency. Every bruise is a financial loss. Every tear is a threat to continuity. Seedling has never spoken since she was taken from her mother's village at the age of 8. The tribe doesn't consider her mute. They call her silent soil. They say it's a good omen. They say she listens better than she speaks. Night is the oldest. She once tried to run. She got as far as the river before they caught her. They didn't beat her. They just tied her to a post in the center of camp and left her there for 2 days. No food, no water, just heat and the eyes of 300 men. After that, she walked with a slight limp. No one ever asked why. Dusk is clever. She fakes illness when she knows her name is about to be called. She once bit a shaman's hand hard enough to draw blood, and lived. That should have meant death. But instead, the elders declared her touched by the ancestors. Since then, her punishments have become more creative. And then there's Dawn, the one they call the fertile flame. She bleeds regularly, eats everything, follows orders. They praise her in front of the others, but Dawn knows better. She knows praise is poison in this place. It makes the other men greedy. It makes the council bold. And most of all, it makes the other girls jealous. Not because they envy her, but because they know what comes next. The mating ceremony is held under a full moon, every 3rd cycle. Each girl is dressed in bark fiber robes, their hair braided with teeth, baby teeth from long-dead children. They're anointed in oil that smells of smoke and pine. Each step of the ritual is ancient, methodical, absolute. And then, when the drums fall silent, the bark is burned. One piece per girl. The name of a man hidden inside. What happens after that isn't discussed. The girl who tried to flee, the fifth one, years ago, is never mentioned. Her name was erased from stone, her hut dismantled, her belongings burned. Some say she was sent to the other camp deep in the jungle. Others say her body was ground into powder for ceremonial ink. But the girls know. They all know. She was a warning, a prelude, a message wrapped in silence. No one speaks of leaving now, but late at night, when the fire burns low and the guards grow sleepy, the girls braid tiny knots into their hair, patterns only they understand. It's not a plan, it's not even hope, it's memory, the only thing they still own. There are no scrolls, no clay tablets, no chance of legal code, just stairs, long ones, and silence that means compliance. The girls quickly learn that in this tribe, rules aren't spoken, they're enforced. You find them by crossing a line and feeling the blow. The laws don't come before the punishment, they come after, etched into your bones. Every girl has a rank, not public, but known, based on age, behavior, body type, even how easily she cries. Night is ranked lowest, too cold, too silent. They say she withholds energy from the earth. Dawn is favored, for now. Dusk is the mystery, unpredictable, hard to read. And seedling? She's the future, and everyone knows it. They just don't know who gets to claim it. There's a system called the rotation. No one uses that word, but it exists. After each ceremony, a group of 3 warriors is permitted conjugal proximity for 9 nights. If no blessing happens, no sign of swelling, no shift in scent, no fatigue, they rotate. Another group steps forward. If a girl resists, she's labeled thorned vine. Thorned vines get pruned. The last girl to earn that name vanished after being given the sleeping drink. Some say she was sent away. Others say the jungle took her back. But one of the guards once slipped, said her bones were used for warmth. It's not just the men who enforce. The elder women play their part. They prepare the robes, mix the herbs, watch the beds. They were girls once too, now refashioned into tools sharper than any blade. One of them, called Wren, has a mouth always twitching, like she's remembering a scream she couldn't voice. She teaches Seedling how to walk with her back arched, because the ancestors prefer open posture. There's a pit behind the smokehouse. The girls call it the cold sleep. If you're too loud, too angry, or even too still, you're sent there. No light, no blanket, just the hiss of worms and the drip of moisture on moss. Dusk once spent 2 nights there for hesitating. She came back with scratch marks on her legs and a swollen eye she wouldn't explain. The elders called it a lesson from the earth. She never hesitated again. They're not allowed to speak to one another outside the hut, so they invent language with their fingers, small taps, braided strands, flower petals laid in certain patterns. A drop of honey on a rock means danger near. A missing comb means wait until morning. The men never catch on because they don't care what the girls think, only what they carry. Sometimes, warriors fight over the right to visit a girl. When this happens, the elders stage a blood test. It sounds like medicine. It's not. It's combat. Winner gets first night. Loser waits until the bruises fade or dies. Last season, a young fighter named Kira challenged an older hunter for access to Dawn. He died on the 3rd strike. Dawn wasn't told until afterward. They told her his blood sealed the blessing. She was expected to be grateful. One morning, Night found a carved rock hidden in the back wall of their hut. Not new, old, smoothed by time, scratched in a forgotten dialect. It told the story of another girl, long ago, who tried to escape with the help of 2 other women. She was caught. Her body boiled in a cauldron lined with sacred leaves. Her skin turned into parchment for the tribal prayers. Her heart fed to the dogs. The inscription ended with the words, "She bled too early." The next full moon is approaching, which means another ceremony, another list of names, another bark scroll tied with vine. And this time, all 4 girls are chosen. Together. It's never happened before. They don't know why. They don't ask. In this place, questions are dangerous. And the answers, even worse. It started with a whisper, not spoken, just a glance held too long. A knot in the hair twisted backward, a smudge of ash in a shape that meant, now. Dusk made the first move. She noticed the guards rotated shifts every 3rd night, and one of them, a limping man with a lazy eye, always fell asleep after chewing root bark. She marked the nights, counted the stars. She didn't say it aloud, but the message spread like fungus in wet soil. The other girls responded in silence. They weren't friends, not really, but they had a shared hunger, not for freedom, but for interruption. For something, anything, to break the pattern. Dusk took the lead. Dawn agreed, hesitantly. Night didn't speak, but nodded once. Seedling watched, wide-eyed, then reached into the fire pit and pulled out a coal with her bare hands, as if to say, "I'll do what it takes." Their plan was stupid, reckless, but it was the only thing they had. Over 6 nights, they hid tiny objects beneath the leaves, a stone knife dulled by bone, a clump of crushed sedative flower, strips of fermented bark that could be chewed for energy. Dusk created a diversion, pretended to collapse during a purification ritual, forcing the healers to waste a full day watching her heartbeat. During that time, Night slipped out and mapped a trail using broken thorns and dyed moss. The jungle west of the village was called the Forbidden Hollow. The warriors never entered. They believed something lived there, something older than the tribe, with teeth made of bone and breath that could rot fruit on the branch. To the girls, that sounded like safety. On the 12th night, Seedling slipped something into the guard's drink. It wasn't poison, not exactly, but it made him slow enough. They ran. No screams, no footsteps, just 4 shadows moving through root and fern like ghosts. They moved without looking back, because looking back was a weakness. Looking back meant doubt. But the jungle is not a place for prayers. It swallows sound, eats direction. By sunrise, their skin was cut in 10 places, feet blistered, breath ragged. Still they moved. Still they hoped, not for escape, but for distance. Then they saw her. Chiu. She stood at the edge of a blackened tree line, wrapped in leaves, face painted like a widow. She had not died. She had not disappeared. She had survived. She didn't ask where they came from. She simply said, "You took long enough." They followed her. She led them through a narrow pass between vines that smelled of old blood and wet clay, into a hollow so silent it hurt. There, she revealed everything. She had lied about her body, about her cycles. She'd learned to trick the elders using dried root powder and moss, made her body mimic illness, faked sterility. She became invisible, not by vanishing, but by pretending to be useless. "I learned early," she said, "that if they think you can't give them what they want, they stop taking." But Chiu didn't run. She stayed. She watched. She listened. And when the rituals became unbearable, she convinced them she was cursed, and they began treating her like a bad omen. She was spared, not out of mercy, out of fear. She offered the others a choice: keep running, deeper into the hollow, where no one ever returned. Or stay with her. Hide. Wait. Let the tribe decay from within. Let them lose everything while thinking they were still in control. Dusk wanted to keep running. Night said nothing. Seedling curled up and slept, for the first time without flinching. But Dawn asked a question no one had dared voice. And what happens if they find us? Chiu Kong Traloi. She just reached into her pouch and pulled out a necklace, woven from braided hair and dried fingers. Not hers. They stayed one more night. Then the horn sounded, not from the forest, from the village. A low, long call, not an alarm, a summons. They had been found. They ran again, this time without a plan, without a leader. Dusk slipped in the mud and screamed. Night picked her up. Dawn turned back. Shiyu vanished into the vines like a shadow that never existed. Seedling clung to Dawn's arm like a baby koala as the bushes exploded behind them with footsteps and snarls. They didn't get far. No one ever does. In the tribe's eyes, this wasn't an escape attempt. It was a violation of trust, a betrayal of purpose. Punishment would not be swift. It would be ceremonial. They returned in silence. Not by choice, their voices had been taken. Not cut, not muted, just emptied. Somewhere along the trail back, language became irrelevant. What could you say after that? Dawn walked first, her arms bound, her head uncovered, eyes dry. Not proud, just done. Night followed, limping. She bled from one ankle where a root had split her skin. No one offered cloth. That was not allowed. Dusk was carried. Her mouth still trembled, even in sleep. Seedling? No one saw her face. They kept her covered, not out of shame, but out of ceremony. The youngest always wore white. Always. They were not scolded, not shouted at. The men didn't speak a word. But the women, the elder ones, they sang. A low, wet-throated chant that vibrated through the bones. A melody used only once every generation, reserved for re-purification. The punishment wasn't a beating. That would have been too kind, too temporary. It was called the tilling. A practice older than memory. The belief that soil, once tainted, must be broken again. Opened, sown, reseeded, in public. The girls were not locked away. They were placed on display. Each was assigned a circle, painted in ash and ochre. One for each night of the moon cycle. In those circles, they would kneel. They would receive visitors. Not all at once. That would break the ritual. No, they came in groups. Scheduled, authorized, decorated in feathers and ink, each man offering his essence in the name of the tribe's rebirth. No refusals were allowed. Refusal was considered a curse, a call for drought, and no one wanted to be the reason the river dried. The girls did not speak to each other. They were not allowed within arm's reach, but their eyes met. That was enough. Dusk broke first. She stopped blinking, stopped moving. They carried her to the seed hut, a clay dome with one opening, no light, and a single purpose. Inside, women painted her skin with protective oils and recited prayers for willingness. Night tried to bite a guard. She was held down, her mouth tied shut, with bark strips soaked in resin. She was renamed Stonejaw. She never got her old title back. Dawn obeyed. Every instruction, every ritual. She became the most requested. They praised her resilience, but they misunderstood. She wasn't submitting. She was watching, waiting, measuring how much of herself was left and how much had been hollowed out. Seedling stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She began humming, tuneless, constant. The elders said it was a good sign, that the spirit of motherhood had entered her. They moved her to the fertility shrine, wrapped her belly in ceremonial cords, and placed carved dolls around her mat. Each doll named after a tribal ancestor, each one meant to be reborn through her. At night, they were never alone. The guards rotated shifts in silence like gears in a machine, not to protect, but to claim. Every shadow in the camp was alive. Every whisper meant surveillance. There was no darkness deep enough to hide. On the 30th day, the final phase began. The planting. The girls were anointed with red soil, stripped of symbols, and laid on woven mats. Warriors circled them, chanting the names of all those who had not been born. Sons lost in battle, daughters who never existed, children never conceived. Each name was a debt, a weight, a justification. The planting was symbolic, but the symbols had bodies. It wasn't violence, they said. It was repair. It wasn't ownership. It was duty. It wasn't cruelty. It was legacy. They told the girls they were blessed, chosen, sacred. But the girls knew better. They knew sacred things were never touched this often. When it was over, there was no announcement, no celebration, just silence. A silence so loud it filled their bones. Not relief, just the absence of resistance. Chiu never reappeared. Some said she escaped. Others said she was watching from the trees, waiting to see if the tribe would eat itself from the inside. Dawn stopped speaking. Night stopped walking. Dusk stopped waking. Seedlings started bleeding. Too early, too much. The elders called it a miracle. The tribe prepared for a birth. But the girls knew. Nothing was being born. Something was being broken. Again.